a definition on what emotional consumption actually means?
Oh yes, actually some experts explained emotional consumption refers to the behavior of getting psychological compensation through the emotional satisfaction and psychological comfort brought by the products. Consumers are driven by, their emotions to purchase the goods or services. Therefore, they do not have strong practical demands for the product or service, but rather value the emotional value and resonance that these products can provide for them. And I can give you some more obvious or exact examples.
Yeah, because even with that definition, right, it's still a definition that it's kind of hard to understand what it means exactly. So yes, thank you. What would be some exact examples?
Yeah, so take online shopping platforms as an example. According to a report of the Global Times, sales of a stress ball squeezable toy rabbit with a price of about 5 yuan, that's about 71 cents, surpassed 100,000 mark in 2024.
Okay.
Yeah. And many text-based mobile phone cases, maybe writing something very encouraging and motivating, and also t-shirts with emotional soothing words also became very popular last year. And what is totally different from previous market demands is that these products may not have practical uses because of their, different features, and some are even just virtual.
Virtual products too.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get to some of those a little bit later, but I think I understand a little bit more clearly now. So the phone case, for example, that has the encouraging words on it, it's not just about buying a phone case because you need a phone case. You're buying a phone case that can give you some sort of emotional boost through some encouraging words, so you read those from time to time.
Yeah, or maybe just a kind of a self-expression way of having a phone case.
It's not so much about the product itself, it's about what the product can do for your emotional well-being.
Definitely. And, actually, I'm quite curious that have you ever purchased anything only for its emotional value?
No.
Really, you guys really struck me as really rational consumers in most cases. But anyway, have you ever bought anything?
I was thinking about this before the show, and the example that came to mind, and I don't know if this qualifies or not, my dog that I used to have, Heidi, she was a mini dachshund, and one year for Halloween, I bought her a cow outfit. So I dressed the dog up as a cow, and that provided me with a lot of emotional well-being, I suppose, because it was super cute. Does that type of thing qualify for this topic? Am I contributing to the trend there?
Definitely, I agree. And my example would be, I would always buy a lot of fridge magnets whenever I visit a new place.
Oh gosh, my wife and I do that all the time now. Our fridge is getting really heavy.
And so do I. And I think that's definitely about emotional value, because every time my friend visits my apartment and they look at those, a whole wall of fridge magnets, and she said, actually you can get all of these from one place in China, right? So probably they're all made in that supermarket.
That's not the point.
That's not the point, because I bought those fridge magnets only for sort of like keeping and storing the beautiful memory I got in this place. And so every time when I look at those fridge magnets, I can just think of maybe the salty breeze on a seashore, or some random walk in ancient towns, or some very pleasant conversations with my friends during the trip.
Yeah.
I think that's the point of buying this thing.
I get it now, 100%. All right, so now let's get into the report. What kind of new information came from that?
Oh yeah, so one thing is the changing consumer demographic. Obviously, what young consumers are after is more than just a commodity. Rather, they are looking for something to lift the negative emotions they feel in daily life, as Gen Zers take over as the main demographic among consumers, and they are bringing their stronger demand for emotional satisfaction and also spiritual enjoyment. Also, upgrading demands is something this report is revealing. The report by People's Daily reveals that homegrown associate researcher at the Ministry of Commerce Research Institute said that the emergence of emotional consumption is the result of demand upgrading. As materials become increasingly abundant, people gradually shift their focus from just basic living needs to personalized, quality-oriented, and diversified needs.
I guess I understand that, right? And I'll stick with the phone case example. Maybe back when smartphones became a thing and phone cases became a thing, people were just looking at them more from the practical point of view. But now phone cases are everywhere. Phone cases are everywhere. So rather than just looking at the functionality, that's what the upgrade is, I guess, that you were referencing, is that people are looking for more for the product, more than they used to look for.
Sure, and that very classic theory that we always refer to when we talk about everything, that is the hierarchy of needs. I think that also applies in this consumption behavior, because just as you should mention earlier, when you are, say, in a situation or in a period where material scarcity is one thing, of course, when you buy things, you consider, is the price worthwhile? Should I just buy this stuff for 5 years? Do I really need it? Because you're still looking for some physiological needs. You need water, you need food, you need shelter. But then, as things become more abundant, people no longer worry about whether they can afford things. And especially nowadays, with the raising living standards globally, people just start looking for more beyond this functionality and whether I need it or not.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense too, right? You start looking for things once different needs once previous needs have been satisfied. What about things like social needs or anything within the community? Is there anything from the report reference there?
Oh yeah, in the community of people with common interests and hobbies, products such as blind boxes and figurines are not just toys, but also social media, helping consumers move from solo
I don't have any hobbies.
It's becoming a kind of social currency as well. People are interacting and communicating with each other about the products they bought. And about this blind box, as we know, it's a kind of a box that has different types or different figurines, mostly, that you may know what's inside. So that's why we call it a blind box. And these kind of things are offering people kind of emotional value so that they can get even, I think, more than the actual value of these products, but a kind of excitement that you get when you opened up a blind box.
I would guess too that loneliness is a factor, and I say that because we've talked about this in the past. In many parts of the world, post-pandemic, people don't socialize as much. They rely on social media more than they used to, and you just said it's part of a community, but it's a different sense of community, isn't it? Because it's done digitally. So perhaps looking for more from products helps to add fuel to that emotional desire, I guess. And I guess what I'm trying to say is the feelings that you might feel in your own personal life, maybe what you're lacking there, might drive what you're going to buy when you're making a decision about your purchases, which isn't an obvious connection there.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of, how an increasing number of young people, they're buying things in a way they call it as re-parenting themselves. It's because, more of compensation. So they're buying things that they're not allowed to buy when they were little kids. So they're, when they grow older and they become more financially independent, they would just, increasingly buy those stuff, although they may not really need it anymore, but they're buying them for the little child they used to be. So it's really interesting.
It's like rebelling against your parents in your adult years.
Exactly.
Maybe that's why I'm constantly eating KFC right now.
You weren't allowed when you were a kid? Well, I found this on Harvard Business Review. This is a little bit old. This is from 2015, but I still think that this applies.
2015?
What I talk about there is from a business point of view, something called emotional motivators or high-impact motivators. And they researched hundreds of brands in dozens of categories. And what they found is that there is a strategy to target the feelings. This is from a business point of view, to target the feelings that drive customers' behavior. and they came up with a list of high-impact emotional motivators. I'll just go through a few of these, and then I want to come back to the beginning, and I want to point out a few of the words that I noticed. One is a desire to stand out from the crowd. This is from a consumer's point of view. A desire to stand out from the crowd. Another one, have confidence in the future. The third one, enjoy a sense of well-being.
Yes.
Feel a sense of freedom. Feel a sense of thrill. Feel a sense of belonging. Protect the environment. The list is longer, but I'll stop there. Let's go back. This is what stood out to me when I looked at this list. Let's just look at the first word of the things that I just read. Stand out, have, enjoy, feel, right? So you can see that, can't you? This is from the Harvard Business Review from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Still at that time, they recognized consumers' desire to feel something and to be something when they're making their purchases. I found that to be kind of fascinating.
Also, that's why I think this kind of industry is actually on the rise. Xinhua reports that a report called the Insight Report on Emotional Economy Consumers in 2024, released by intelligent information platform Mob Taxes, paying for emotional value and interest has become the top reason for young people's consumption in 2024. That's accounting for more than 40% of the respondents.
So if we look at some of the innovative or perhaps creative products out there that help to release stress and bring happiness and provide that emotional value, what are some other examples we can look at?
We've actually said or listed some of these, and the one thing that I could think of is the thing that you can, release your pressure. A university student surnamed Lee brought a bouncy ball linked with a handband through a stretch rope. Can you imagine that? It sounds like a yo-yo, but it's maybe just a bounce ball, not a yo-yo itself. When he is anxious, he will wear the handband and hit the ball to release the pressure.
And then it comes back.
Oh, yeah. And I think the enjoyment as you can always catch the ball, because maybe that's kind of a sense of, kind of that. Yeah.
I also want to offer another example. I actually talked about this roundtable show, that is the wooden or electric yu. It's actually the electric wooden fish, because traditionally the wooden fish is a wooden instrument where monks used to strike it during chanting to maybe acquire peace and focus. But increasingly you can find some very modern wooden fish, which I personally had one in the office in the shape of a keyboard button, and on top of that button there is words like 功德加一 means 功德 plus one or virtual plus one. So that means when every time I press the keyboard button, I accumulate my virtual or merit. That's really stress relieving to me personally, because every time you just need to focus, maybe write long reports, you always need something to play in your hands. That's definitely stress relieving on the one hand. Anytime you just feel this emotional relief, because you feel like you're virtually accumulating the virtual. So that's really interesting case.
Not everything is a handheld object or something that you put on your desk at home, or what did we talk about before as well? Those banana trees.
Oh yeah.
That people put on their desk for anxiety release. What about companion services? Does this apply here? This is something we've discussed on the show before as well.
There are many online interesting virtual services, even some are quite abstract, I would say, providing emotional comfort for consumers. Some listen to what consumers say to help them release their negative emotions, and some chat with consumers to form an online interpersonal communication channel, and some just praise the customers to provide their emotional support and recognition. Just praise them.
Really?
I actually can get that, and I think that makes sense. Some people, or as humans, a lot of times we need affirmation,
positive feedback.
Yes. And at that time, these kind of services, of course, it's like a cold machine that you can just get through online, but magically, when you are getting that kind of information saying, oh, you're doing so good, you're acting so positively right now, that makes you feel positive.
Do you, I'm sorry, do you know some more details about this? I'm curious, like, do you send them information about yourself and then they use that information to give you compliments, or is it just kind of vague compliments that could apply to anyone?
I think that could be highly personalized. You can give them your information and maybe they will customize the compliments they will give you. And they can just, if you don't give them anything, they can just give you a compliment right away.
Something like you deserve to have a KFC all the time, Peter.
I should call them after round table every day. Good job, Steve. Thanks, AI bot. This goes back, I think, to this is all connected to loneliness somehow. Don't you feel that way, right? Because if we're not getting that type of feedback in our regular lives enough, probably because we're not interacting with other people, that's where those compliments will come from. And maybe there's some connection there as